So Stephen A. Smith has been saying things about Westbrook lately, and I mean, I'm sure you've seen it. If you haven't, it's the idea of downplaying the triple doubles, downplaying the numbers, and just being like, well, you don't have a championship or whatever, right? There's a lot to it, but it's basically just that. And of course, you're allowed to criticize Westbrook, but it's like, is it that serious? Is it that big of a deal that Russell Westbrook is praising himself a bit for the triple doubles and all that? And as he says, it's not easy to do, and it's not. I mean, him and Oscar Robertson, the two guys who have gotten this many triple doubles, Jason Kidd, Magic are somewhere on the list as well, but like, it's not a normal thing, And for Stephen A to just kind of poo-poo on the whole thing and be like, yeah, well, actually, and then do the whole, like, they should be thanking me for him playing better thing, which was just weird. I don't know. I mean, maybe this is more of a conversation about sports media in general. I mean, as I've said, I think Skip Bayless is the most influential sports guy of the last 20 years or so, and I mean, I'm making a video about Stephen A. Smith right now, so there you go. I guess mission accomplished. It's just like, this sort of thing, I feel like you can only go to the well on this sort of thing a few times before eventually people are just like, all right, we don't really care. Now, as I say that, I'm pretty sure TV sports media is still doing really well, but, ESPN's not as big as it once was. I'm sure there's a whole lot of conversations about that, but part of it might be like, can we just have some more like chill X's and O's based conversations about stuff? I mean, ESPN has tried some of that. Like, The Jump has some of that. Even then, I think The Jump kind of leans into some things occasionally. This is sort of going off the rails, but I just don't know if it's like as big of a deal as Stephen A is making it out to be. And again, that's not to say that you have to proclaim Westbrook as the best player in the NBA or whatever, but I mean, is it that? Like, is it so bad to act as if he's like doing some horrible thing by getting these triple doubles? Because that's like kind of what the angle Stephen A is going at, where he's like, allow me to remind you that actually none of this matters because of this. And it's like, well, if we have that mentality, then we should only care about like 2 NBA teams every year, which you could argue the media sometimes only cares about a couple NBA teams every year, or a couple players every year, or whatever it may be. The other thing I wanted to talk about with Westbrook's postseasons and all that, I mean, I've done a whole spiel about the OKC thing and how their run and the number of attempts that they really had to go to the finals, it's not as many real attempts as you might remember. I mean, 2012, they lose to the Heat in 5 games in the finals. 2013, Westbrook is hurt, so that year is a wash. In 2014, they lose in 6 to the best passing team ever in the Spurs. And this is another problem I've had with NBA conversations lately, and I think Stephen A is kind of pushing that with this Westbrook thing. It's like, losing in a competitive series is not some horrible thing. Now, if you're heavily favored to beat the team, then okay, that is fair, but I don't think that was one of those occasions. Anyway, then you get 2015. Westbrook and KD were hurt, so they're out on that one. In 2016, they lose to the 73-win Warriors in 7 games, which, again, I don't think that's that bad of a loss, even if, the Warriors had to come back from 3-1 on them. And then KD leaves, and then their title odds are gone. Now, even then, Westbrook, of course, the MVP season 2017, they lost to the Rockets in round 1. That series was not Westbrook's fault, okay? The guy averaged 38 points, 12 rebounds, and 11 assists. Yeah, his efficiency was not good, but I'm willing to look past that. Also, look, Robertson had 12 points a game in that series. Oladipo had 11. I mean, Taj Gibson and Steven Adams were starting together. I mean, come on. That roster was not built to make Westbrook better at all. Even if they were good on defense, they were too far into defense to the point where Westbrook had no reliable guy to pass to. And then you get to the 2018 series where they lose to the Jazz in the first round, 6 games. Russell Westbrook in Game 5, 45 points. Game 6, 46 points. Meanwhile, Paul George was really bad in that Game 6. Also, Carmelo was terrible in that series. The Jazz picked him apart on defense, and then on offense, he wasn't Melo. They should have just been playing like Jeremy Grant or whoever else over him, which I remember being a conversation in that series. Now, again, not saying Westbrook was perfect in that series or anything, but it's more so just we do this with the NBA where we get this revisionist history where we just suddenly start blaming the star player for all the losses, which is why I remember I had a tweet where I said, like in 15 years or whatever, when we're talking about Luka's all-time place in the league, he's going to get blamed for losing that round one series to the Clippers, whereas anyone who was there would tell you he had an amazing series. And then you get to 2019, Westbrook loses in round one to the Blazers, and then 2020 losing round two to the Lakers. And look, I'm not trying to say that Westbrook is actually one of the best 20 or 30 best players ever. It could be when you start having that conversation around number 30 or so, but more so what I'm getting at is just, it's not as if the guy's been horrible in the playoffs, okay? Although he definitely was bad at times against the Lakers last year. And again, I'm not saying Westbrook doesn't deserve criticism. I mean, I've been definitely right there talking about the guy taking bad jump shots and not being as efficient as you'd really like him to be, and his defense comes and goes and all that stuff, but I still just don't really get the whole, like, Stephen A. just pile it onto Westbrook thing. The other thing that was funny is, I saw this idea pushed out there by people. It was like, Stephen A. saying, you'll be appreciated more if you win a title or whatever. But then Stephen A. also craps on star players for playing with other star players. It's like, well, is there a perfect medium? Like, is it just one star player, but if you want to keep getting better teammates, eventually it's too much and you lose credit for it all? I don't get it. I mean, as I have said before, it's like, you look at all the best players of all time. They all had other best player of all time teammates. If they didn't, they wouldn't have titles. Like, Magic doesn't get 5 rings if not for Kareem. And that's not a knock on Magic, that's just how it has been in the NBA. Same thing with Bird. I mean, if LeBron doesn't have Kyrie, AD, or D Wade, he doesn't get all his rings. If MJ doesn't have Scottie, he doesn't get all of his. Like, these aren't criticisms, it's just the way it is. And, like, no, Westbrook is not as good as those guys, whichever way you want to slice it, but it's just like, if you want to crap on Westbrook for not having rings, then, like, we're also going to crap on players for wanting to do the thing that you've had to do to win championships in the NBA, which is to have other great teammates. I don't know what to tell you. All right. Now, as I say all that, was I still disappointed in KD doing the whole go to Warriors? Yeah, of course I was, because it took like a very competitive league, and well, for a couple years, not so competitive, as we all remember. So I don't know where this all went, but Stephen A., just chill with the Westbrook thing, man. It's not that big of a deal. Even if, once again, yeah, you can still criticize him, as you can every player.